Okay, so in today's lecture, we will study the programming technology of programmable devices. The programming technology can be categorized into two types. One is called as OTP, that is one-time programmable, and another is called as MTP, that is multi-time programmable. So in a OTP technology, once a device is programmed, it cannot be reprogrammed, and in a many-time programmable technology, you can program the device multiple times at different time instance. One is program, you can reprogram it. Okay, one classical example is a LUT-based technology in which you can change the contents of LUT at a program time, and when you change the content of the LUT, the function will be changed. The function will be changed. Okay, so in the one-time programming technology, so in the programming technology, there are three types of technologies. One is anti-fuse technology, another is static RAM, and another is EPROM and EEPROM technology. So first we will start with an anti-fuse technology. So what is an anti-fuse? Anti-fuse is opposite of a regular fuse, and it is normally an open circuit. When you pass a very high current, actually, so it means that when it is normally open, when you pass very high current, so there is a dielectric between two terminals. Dielectric between two terminals. When it pass high programming current, the dielectric is broken and the two terminals are connected. So it is opposite of a fuse. So there are two type of fuse. One is a poly diffusion antifuse, and another is metal antifuse. Okay. So in the poly diffusion antifuse, so we have a high current density. It causes a large power dissipation in a small area. So in a poly diffusion antifuse, there is a dielectric between A and B. What is A is N plus diffusion electrode and B is polysilicons. Can you see A in red and B in red and the dielectric that is in green? So if you pass very high current, programming current, so it will cause this fuse to break and the connection will be made between A and B. So since it is a one-time programming technology, once the fuse is broken, it cannot be made again, and the connection becomes permanent. So another type of technology, if you look at the anti-fuse technology, so here, so we have an anti-fuse technology. So the programming current and the fabrication process parameters. What are the fabrication process parameters? So the resistance depends upon the fabrication process parameter. So it also depends on the dopant concentration. What is the doping concentration? It is the number of holes or the number of electrons. The concentration of the holes or concentration of electron. If you remember in NMOS, there is an N plus, and in PMOS there is P plus. So it means that how many holes you have, how many concentration of electrons you have in a transistor, or how many concentration of holes do you have. So it also depends upon the doping concentration. When there are more dopants, there will be more carriers. Okay, and also thickness of the dielectric. When the thickness of the dielectric is large, so you need more programming current to fuse it. When it is a small thickness, we will have less resistance. But the problem with the small thickness is that let's assume if you want to have this dielectric, so with the small thickness will have less reliability. Maybe you didn't pass any programming current and it may be broken with time, with aging. So it also depends on the thickness of the dielectric. And also the separation between the polysilicon and the diffusion electrode. How far are these two electrodes? How far are these two connections? How far are these connections? If the connections are far, so you need a very thick dielectric. When you have a thick dielectric, so you need to pass more current. And even if you blow up the fuse, the resistance will be very high. And actually, when you want to blow up the fuse, you want less resistance or more resistance? You want less resistance. Okay, so all these parameters depend upon this fabrication parameter, that what is the separation between the polysilicon and the diffusion electrodes. What's the distance and what is the thickness of the dielectric, and also upon the doping concentration. So if you look at here, so if we have a programming current, of 5 milliampere. So if you have programming current of 5 milliampere, it will result in an average blown fuse resistance of 500 omega. So the resistance will be there. And if you provide a programming current of 15 ampere, sorry, 15 milliampere, sorry, it may reduce the actual average fuse resistance to 100 omega. Okay, so what are the features of these technologies? What are these features of these technologies? These are some features for polysilicon technology. This anti-fuse technology is also called OTP. It is one-time programming, and it is used in Actel devices. Okay. Another type of OTP technology is metal anti-fuse. The concept is similar. But the materials that are used are different. And how the connection is made is different. If you look at here, so it means now we have a more dense silicon dioxide. Can you see the silicon dioxide on the right? So what is silicon dioxide? It is a dielectric. Okay. And you have two metal layers. Okay. Now whenever you want to fabricate a chip, there are two types of layers. One are the transistor layers, and another is metal layer 1 and then metal layer 2. And there may be many metal layers depending upon the number of connection that you need. So actually, if you look at here, so there is an amorphous. If you look at, there is an amorphous silicon dioxide. So what is amorphous silicon dioxide? It will act as a dielectric. It is an insulator. Okay. So the same technology. So now you have two layers. If you have chip, so you have layer 1, and then you have a layer 2, and between these two layers there is a dielectric. And when you pass high current, so the dielectric can be broken, and in this case a connection will be made between these two metal layers. So this type of technology is called as metal and fuse. It is also called as wire link. One question: and what is the average resistance of metal and anti-fuse? It ranges from 50 omega to 100 omega. And what was the resistance in anti-fuse technology? From 100 to 500. And it depended on the programming current, the separation between the terminals, also the doping concentration, and the thickness of the dielectric. So these are the parameters on which the average resistance will determine. Okay. Now we have another technology, static RAM technology. So static RAM technology is typically used in the LUT-based architecture. If you remember, what was the LUT-based architecture that we studied? Flex architecture and CFB architectures. CFBs, if you remember. In CFB, we were using some LUTs, configurable functional block. So if you look at the static RAM as configuration cell, so this is the, if you look at here, so this is only one cell, and it stores a value. If you remember, we were using some multiplexer, and at that point we were saying that there is a storage element. Okay, there was a storage element, and that storage element will determine that whether signal A will pass or signal B will pass. So now if you want to make a connection between X1 and X2, okay. So the Xilinx SRAM cell configuration is constructed using true cross-coupled inverter and uses a standard CMOS process. If there is this is an inverter, how many transistors will be used? 2 transistors. And the below inverter also 2 transistors. So the configuration cell drives the gate of the other transistor on the chip, either turning the pass transistor on or turning the pass transistor off. So now let's assume we are storing 0 here. So what does it mean? X1 and X2 will be connected or disconnected? Disconnected. And if you are storing a 1, it will be connected. So it will be connected. Let's assume if you want to store a logical 1 here, Okay, so either this data can be written into the cell. This data can be written into the cell based on the read write. If read is 0, if we want to store this value, okay, and let's assume if we want to write this cell, so this is a cell, we can store either a 0 here or a 1 here. If you want to store 1, so 1 will be provided here, and on the right it will be 1. So this data will be written from here to the storage cell, and because it's a cross-coupled inverter, the data will be stored there. And if you want to store a 0, so 0 will be provided here, and on the right it will be 1. And if you want to read the value, so the direction will be from where to where for a read operation. The direction will be from the cell to the data. And if you want to perform a write operation, the direction will be from the data to the cell. So what is the advantage of this technology? It is multi-time programmable. Multi-time programmable. So the advantage is it is multi-time programmable, and at one time we can store a 0 here, and another time we will store a logical 1 here. So now this is an SRAM cell. Okay, and these are two terminals, A and B. If we store a logical 0, A and B will be disconnected, and if we store a logical 1, A and B will be connected. So actually if you look at here, so you can make a connection between two. Another example is a multiplexer. Let's assume we have a multiplexer and output is F. Okay, which signal will pass on the output F will determine on two SRAM cells. Why we need two SRAM cells? Because it is a 4-into-1 multiplexer. If it is an 8-into-1 multiplexer, then we need a 3 SRAM cell. And based on the content of cell, which signal will pass from the input to the output will be determined on the content of these SRAM cell. And we can store different values at different time instant. Let's assume if we store 0, 0, then D1 will be connected with F, and if 0, 1, D2, and so forth, so on. So the advantage of this is it is many time programmable. We just need to store some values in this SRAM cell, and based on the values of this SRAM cell, the device will be programmed. The device will be programmed. But what is the disadvantage? Because it is a volatile memory technology. When the power is off, when the power is off, then the values data stored will be lost. Okay, so then we need to reprogram the device. We need to reprogram the device. Even when the power is off, we need to reprogram the device. Another type of technology is EPROM and EEPROM technology. Okay, so what is EPROM? EPROM stands for electrically erasable EEPROM. So EEPROM stands for EEPROM stands for electrically erasable programmable read-only technology. Okay, so in this technology, we have, let's assume we have an NMOS. We have an NMOS, so this is an N plus here and N plus here. On the top of this N plus and N plus, there is a silicon dioxide layer, and which acts as a dielectric. Now we have two gates. Can you see the control gate here? There is a control gate. When you apply a positive voltage, when you apply a very high positive voltage, what will happen? It will attract. Okay, so there will be some minus electrons here. It will attract the electrons. It's a very high current. It will attract the electron from the channel, and this electron will be trapped. This electron will be trapped in this gate, this control gate. We call this as a floating gate. When you apply a very high voltage, When you apply a very high voltage, so actually it will attract the electrons. So all the electrons will be moved from the channel to the gates. When it will be trapped inside the gate, the channel will be formed or channel will not be formed. Channel will not be formed. Because what we are, you have, so the electron, all the electrons, actually, if you have here, so when a channel is be formed, the electrons will move from source to the drain. But when this electron will be trapped in a floating gate, so actually all these electrons will move from here to here. So it will create a high resistance or low resistance? Very high resistance. And when it's a very high resistance, so it means that the source and drain will be connected or disconnected? Disconnected. So electrically erasable. Okay, so now this is called as programming voltage. And this programming voltage is very, very high. Is very, very high compared to the normal voltage. So what you do? You provide a very high programming voltage. This is called as programming voltage. There are two types of voltage. One is the programming voltage and another is operating voltage. So whenever in electrical erasable programmable read-only technology, you provide a very high programming voltage. When you provide a very high programming, it will attract electrons from the channel to the floating gate. When the electron will be trapped in this floating gate, and you know the meaning of floating. So when its electron will be trapped within the floating gate, so it means no channel will be formed. And when no channel will be formed, so it means source and drain will be disconnected. Okay, now how we can, now let's assume if you want to make a connection and the electrons are trapped. The electrons are trapped. So what do you need to do then? We will apply a negative. Same voltage, yes, same but high voltage. Then we will apply a negative voltage. So a negative voltage will repel the electrons that are in the floating gate back to the channel. Okay, normally it will act as an NMOS transistor. Normally it will act as an NMOS transistor. Okay, and let's if you apply a normal voltage, operating voltage, source and drain will be connected. But when it will be in a floating condition, whatever voltage you apply, no channel will be formed. Because for the channel formation, you need very, very high negative programming voltage. Okay, and these are two thresholds. One is a threshold for the formation of channel in normal condition. One is for the formation of channel in the programming mode. High voltage around? I think it depends on the technology. It depends on the technology that you use. Like there are different type of technology. Even the operating voltage, I'm not talking about the programming voltage, but about the operating voltage. In earlier technology, the operating voltage was 5 volt, and now it was then reduced to 3.3 volt. Now it is reduced to 3 volt, and now in some technology it is even 2.2 volt. So the operating voltage depends on the technology that you are using. Similarly, the programming current also depends on the technology that you are using. So these are all details. These are all details about these technology. So if you apply a very high positive voltage, so this electron will move from here to here, and it will be trapped here. Now these are trapped here. When they are trapped here, so no channel for the conduction and open circuit, because the charge are trapped here. And when you want to move this charge back to here, what you need to do? Negative programming voltage at the control gate. Okay, so in EEPROM based technology, this is called as erasable programmable read-only memory. Instead of a programming current, you pass an ultraviolet ray. So an ultraviolet is applied to the floating gate. The energy is equivalent to H mu. H is the Planck's constant. What is mu? Frequency. Okay, which will cause the electron to jump back into the channel. So the same thing, can be done using ultraviolet technology, and it is one time. Ultraviolet is sometimes it's one time. I don't know. It also depends upon the type of the technology that you are using.
नेगेटिव करंट वाली जो थी वो EEPROM वाली थी.
EEPROM, electrically erasable. So now you can use two mechanism. One is electrically erasable, where it's a high positive voltage or high negative voltage. Or EEPROM, you use ultraviolet instead of electric. You use. Okay. So operation of a program EEPROM. So once programmed, an EEPROM does not remain off even with VDD 5 volt. If you normally when the charges are, now if you look at here, so you see it is a floating gate. Why it is floating? Because all the negative charges are inside the floating gate. So this is which condition? Floating gate. And this is the symbol. Now all these electrons are in, where are these electrons? In it's the gate. In between the silicon dioxide. So even if you apply a 5 volt, it will be even 5 volt or 0 volt. So this 5 volt or 0 volt is this 5 volt or 0 volt? Operating volt. Even you apply for, in both cases, the switch will be open.
Sir, ये जो हमने positive इस पे करंट अप्लाई करके इसको फ्लोटिंग में लेकर गए हैं, ये हमने इरेज किया है इसको.
ये इसको देखिए, we have not erased it. We have programmed it depending on the condition, whether we want a connection or we don't want a connection, depending on the requirement of the circuit. Let's say we have two terminals A and B. So there are two possibilities. Either we want to make a connection, retain the connection, or blow up the connection. So it depends on the condition. If you want to make a connection, it should operate in a normal mode. If you don't want to make a connection, it should be in the floating condition. So there are two possibilities. Okay. So now in this case, even if it is 5 volt or 0 volt, in both cases the switch will be disconnected. And if it's one is programmed, so it means there is no floating gate, so it will operate normally. So when it's 0, the transistor will be off. When it's 1, the transistor will be on. Okay, so now this so these are the, and we can also implement memory using this floating gate transistor. So we want to store a 0 or we want to store a 1, and these are different possibility. So now let's see how we can implement a memory using floating gate transistor. Okay, to store a 1, we program it. To store a 1, if you want to store a 1, we program it. So just charge is trapped. When charge is trapped, when charge is trapped, so it means now this T1 will be on or off? Off. When T1 is out, so the output will be connected with VCC or VDD. So which we can store a logical 1 or 0? 1. And it will also store a 1 because T1 is permanently off. Because the charge is trapped, either you apply a 0 or 1, doesn't matter. And to store a 0, we don't program it. So actually you can just store a 1. So these are two different conditions, like in these conditions. We want to store a 0. When we want to store a 0 for 1, actually okay, it should be in a floating state. Okay, now for read, let's assume read is 0. What will be the value of bit line? 1. Okay, read is equal to 1. Read is equal to 1. For unprogrammed, bit line is 0, T1 is on. Read is equal to 1. For programmed, bit line is equal to 1, T1 is equal to on, off. So these are two different possible conditions, and you can explore this. Okay, now we have another technology that is called as Actal logic module. Actal logic module. An Actal logic module is a mux-based logic. So this is the high-level schematic of the Actal logic module. So what is the input to the? What is the input? A0, A1, SA, B0, B1, SB, and S0 and S1. So these are the inputs. And what is the output? F. How many muxes are used? 3 muxes. 3 muxes are used, and these are 2-into-1 multiplexers. There are 3 mux. Mux 1, mux 2, and mux 3. There are 3 muxes are used. Okay. So if you look at the transistor implementation of the Actel logic, so actually now we can have this mux. Can you see this mux? Okay. So the transistor multiplexer, so this is mux 1. Now this one, the second one is mux 2. And the third one is mux 3. Now if you look at only single mux, so now this is single mux. How it will look like? It will look like here. This is the transistor implementation of the Actel logic. When SA0, SA is 0, so this will be 1. Both are NMOS. Okay, when SA is 0, F will be equal to A0. When it is 1, so it is A0, so it is 0 or 1, and it's 1 or 0, so the output will be equal to A1. So this is actually the implementation of multiplexer. So if you look at here, so now this is F1. So now we have connected this in the vertical mode, and now this is in just in horizontal mode. Okay, so now this is the implementation of the Actel logic module or the logic module. So now this is the truth table of a 2-into-1 multiplexer. This is the truth table, and this is the reduced truth table. So when SA is 0, T1 is on, T2 is off, F is equal to A0, and SA is equal to 1, T1 is on, off, and T2 is on, and output is A1, as we already mentioned. Now let's assume we have this Actel module. This is Actel module. And if you look at the Actel module, so this is A0 SA. Okay, if you look at the Actel module, A0 A1 SA. It is A0. The second one is A1 C is SA. And we want to write this logical equation of F in soft form. We want to write the logical equation of F in soft form. So what is the logical equation of multiplexer? Let's assume this is a multiplexer, and you already know from the digital logic design course. When A is 1, when S is 0, A, when S is 1, B. Okay, so what will be F1? Now we have F1. This is F1. So we will put these values in the equation. So we get this equation, we get this equation for F2. And if we see the expression of F, so what is the final equation of F? AB plus B bar C plus B. What is this plus? Plus is actually OR operation. OR operation. And which expression is this? Sum of product. Now if you look at, if you want to implement a Boolean function, any Boolean function, if you want to implement any Boolean function F, okay, so this mux can implement how many functions? These functions. It depends on what? A0. What is F? Can we write it? What is F? F is a function of what? F is a function of A0, A1, and SA. Now it's only about 1 mux. It's only about 1 mux. If you want to see that what should be the value of f is dependent on the signal A0, A1 and SA. A0, A1 and SA. Now depending on the values of A0, A1 and SA, we will have some expression for f. So how many possible combinations are there? Let's assume A0 is 0, A1 is 0 and SA is 0. What will be the value of f? 0. If you want to implement A bar B, which value should be given to A0? B, 0 and A. It will implement this A bar B function. And if you want to implement A B bar, so A0 will be A, A1 will be 0, SA will be B. So actually using this 2-into-1 multiplexer, there are different possibilities. So we can implement all of these functions. We can implement all these functions that are highlighted in this yellow with the 2-into-1 multiplexer. And for each of these multiplication, we should give different values to A0, A1 and select lines. So there is another MUX-based module for Actel technology. This is called a C module. This is called as C module. So if you look at this C module, so it's a 4-into-1 multiplexer. So what is this out? This out is a function of D0, D1, D2, D3, A1, B1, A0 and A2. And there is an S module. C stands for combination. S stands for sequential. So if you look at why it is a sequential module, because of flip-flop here. And this is an S module. There is a flip-flop here. Okay. So what a synthesizer will do? Let's assume we have a synthesizer and we have some architecture. This architecture may be a CFP architecture. This may be Altera Flex architecture. This may be a NAND logic, NOR logic, okay, AOI cell, OAI cell, OAI cell, transmission gate logic, Actel logic. So given a target technology, a target architecture, the target architecture may be different. The programming technology may be different. Given a target architecture and given a given function, so the synthesizer will decide how to program that. So let's assume you have a very high level design. How you can give a high level design? How can you give a high level design? High level design. It can be a Verilog module. It can be a schematic based design. What the synthesizer will do? The synthesizer will translate that design into that particular architecture. Now let's assume, I will give this with an example. Now let's assume we have a simple MUX. We have a simple MUX, 2-into-1 multiplexer in the Actel based logic. And we want to implement the function AB. What we need to do? Given the table, we want to implement the function AB. Which value should we give to A0? 0. Which value should we give to A1? B. Which value should we give to SA? A. If you want to implement A plus B, then
0, 1, 0.
So which value should be given to A0? 0. No, sorry. B, 1 and A. So depending on the logic function, that we want to implement, how we can program the technology. So the synthesizer will do all this stuff for you. It is hidden to the designer or transparent to the designer? It is hidden to the designer. Now let's assume if you write a C program or an assembly language program, this C program will be compiled into a binary program. Who will do this for you? Compiler. Here the compiler will translate a high level program that is written in C into executable program. Okay. Similarly, an assembler will
सर आप एक दफा डिटेल में बता सकते हैं कि सिंथेसाइजर और कंपाइलर में एग्जैक्टली क्या फर्क है, क्योंकि
Okay, actually, if you look at the program, there are two type of program. One is a sequential program and another is a concurrent program. So in Verilog, it's a concurrent program. In whenever you write a Verilog program or you have a design, you think in terms of hardware. So there is some hardware. Hardware can be a multiplexer at high level. What can be a hardware? Hardware can be a multiplexer. Hardware can be an adder. Hardware can be a subtractor, AND gate, flip-flops, latches, these kind of things. But if you look at the program in C++, so you need a concept of a processor. When you need a concept of a processor, so you have some memory. Okay, and you have some instructions. For any instruction, there is some encoding. So whenever you compile a program, C++ program, so it will be a program where the program is stored, memory. And if you look at the memory consists of instructions and data. So the data will be stored in memory and the instruction will be stored in memory. Okay, so when you compile a program, and if you remember, when we were transmitting the program, so there was some instruction set encoding. So there was some RD field, RS1 field, and RS2 field, the destination register, the source register, and source register 2. And we were storing that program. And each operation, let's assume add has some opcode 000. We were storing that opcode in memory. And when the programs are stored in memory, you first fetch the instruction, then you decode the instruction. But if you look of the same program, let us say if you're writing in C++, if A is equal to 1. Okay, so if you look at the assembly program, how will it look like? Compare R0 with 1. And if it's equal, branch equal, you jump to a label. It's like this. But if you look from Verilog perspective, if you have similar kind of a code in Verilog, it will instantiate a multiplexer, and that multiplexer will be parallel. You got my point or not?
Yes, sir.
Now you want to implement some function in a chip, and you want to implement some function in a chip, and it's actually in the hardware. So there are different type of hardware. It can be an ASIC technology. Okay, or it can be a programmable technology. And ASIC technology, you have to fabricate from the scratch. Everything you have to fabricate. But if you are using a programmable technology, all the resources are there. You just need to program it.
आप सर कह रहे हैं मतलब pre-built functions. Pre-built functions.
No, the hardware is already formed. That hardware is there. You just program it. Like this, we study Xilinx architecture.
Yes.
So CFBs are there, LUTs are there. So what you need to do? You just program, you store these values in a LUT, and you implement the function. Okay? So what a synthesizer will do? Synthesizer will translate the design, present it in terms of high-level language. What is high-level language? No, high-level language. Synthesizer, Verilog, VHDL. It can. So what are design entry methods? So high-level language, you can design entry method. It can be Verilog or VHDL. VHDL is another language we didn't do, and it can also be a schematic design. Schematic design. It will translate this in terms of CFBs, macro cell, and routing architecture for MEX architecture. For MEX architecture, we have some kind of interconnect technology. MEX में कौन-कौन सी routing technology थी? याद आ रहा है आपको? MEX architecture में. We had some routing architectures in MEX. Okay. So it will translate it in terms of CFBs, macro cell. So in MEX architecture, there was some single length lines and double length lines, some kind of this. Now we have CLB, LUT, and flip-flop together with PSM. What is PSM? Programmable switch matrix. In case of Xilinx XC3000 and XC4000 device. And it will translate the design in terms of LAB. What does LAB stand for? Logic array block. Logic element. Okay. Logic element have some LUT and some flip-flop. And row fast stack interconnect and column fast stack interconnect. And Xilinx will translate in terms of PMOS and NMOS in the CMOS logic. Okay, so if we are using CMOS logic, it is a programmable device or non-programmable device? No. When you have this CMOS logic, you have to send it to the fabrication plant. You have to send it to the fabrication plant, and then they will fabricate the device, and it is more efficient, but you need very high time. You need high design time, not only design time but also manufacturing time. Okay, it will translate the design of Actel based module for Actel family. Which module did we study? C module, S module, and Mux based Act module. So there were 3 modules. And in terms of vertex slices, flip-flop, LUT, programming and switch matrix, dedicated adder, there are also some technologies that has also some dedicated adders inside data available. We also have dedicated multiplier. If you remember the Xilinx Flex 10K architecture, there is an additional block. What was the name of that additional block? EAB, if you remember. Embedded array block. That embedded array block could be used as a memory, or you can implement wider function using this EAB. And today modern FPGA devices have built-in microprocessor there. Some FPGA devices have built-in microprocessor. Some FPGA devices have built-in DSP blocks. Some FPGA devices have built-in adder structure. Built-in adder structure. If you want to use that adder structure, you can directly use it. Okay, and there are also and now what is speed grading? Speed grading. So let us say we have FPGA. We have FPGA, and we have used the FPGA using the same technology, but different FPGA will behave differently because of the imperfection in the manufacturing. So FPGA vendors typically grade the device into speed grade, maybe speed grade 1, speed grade 2, speed grade 3, speed grade 4. And one speed grade may refer to a very high speed, and it's the same device, not different device, the same device. One device may have high speed and other device may have low speed. Why it occurs? Because of the imperfection in the fabrication. Now let's assume we have a transistor T1. Let's assume we have a transistor T1. Let's assume we have a transistor. This is an NMOS transistor or PMOS transistor? NMOS transistor. We mentioned the same width and the same length and mentioned the same length for this transistor. This transistor, if we fabricate this transistor on one chip, it may have a delay of, let's assume, 1 picosecond, and maybe the same transistor on different location of the chip, it may have 0.9 picosecond delay. Why it's there? Because of the imperfection in the fabrication. Because when you want to fabricate a transistor, so in the bottom there is a piece of state. There is an N plus and there is an N plus. So actually the behavior of this transistor depends upon the channel length and the channel width. But the actual channel length and the channel width is not same for each transistor because of the imperfection. Now I will give this with an example. Let's say I want to do a paint on a wall. Okay, and I have this spray paint and I spray this paint on the wall. Will the thickness of this paint will be same? No, it will not be same. It may be different. Even a small difference in nanometer matters a lot. And let's assume we are using some dopant concentration. So let's assume when the dopant is implanted from some technology, some techniques, you're doing some ion implantation. Okay, when you're doing some ion implantation, so the concentration of these dopant may be different in different transistors. So even the same transistor may behave differently. So that's the reason that when the FPGA are fabricated, then they are tested. And all these circuits are tested. Okay, which circuit has how much delay, and then they categorize. Even all of these same chips are manufactured using the same technology. The same technology, same thing, but they will behave differently. Their behavior will be different. Now let's assume if you have a resistance, okay, and you buy 10 resistance from the same vendor, from the same, and if you check them, all these resistance will be same or different? Different. That's the reason that they categorize, when you have this FPGA, they speed gate devices, okay, and then they sell it. Now, if you compare different families, FPGA families, we have different FPGA families. So we have Altera Flex architecture, Xilinx XT3000, XT4000, Actel, and Max. If you look at the programming technology for Altera Flex is SRAM based. For Xilinx, SRAM based. For Actel, NT-Fuse. For Max, EPROM. So what is the base logic cell? From which the smallest unit. The base logic cell for Altera Flex architecture is LAB, logic array block. The logic array block consists of logic elements. Each LAB consists of 8 logic elements, if you remember. Okay, now if you look at what is the base logic cell? CLB, configurable logic block. Okay, in Actel, it is a logic module. And in Max, it is a CFB, configurable functional block. And if you look at the logic cell content, the content of the logic cell, each LAB consists of a LUT, flip-flop, mux, and carry logic. And if you look at the content of CLB, LUT, flux, flip-flop, and multiplexer. And if you look at the Actel technology, so there is some muxes and OR gates. If you remember, C module, S module, and mux-based logic. And in the Max architecture, it is a macro cell, flip-flop, and product term select, if you remember. Okay, so this is all an overview of different programming technologies that we studied in our lecture. And with this, I will now finish my lecture.